You're watching Fugitive Red-Eye, and welcome to another Go Nagai video. And this is one that's been a long time coming. So as you can see from the title, the claim that I am asserting is that Cutie Honey Universe is better than Devilman Crybaby. That's right, me, Fugitive Red-Eye. I am saying that a anime with a female protagonist is better than an entry in the Devilman series. I know that's a lot coming from the fact that Devilman happens to be my favorite anime manga franchise, and if you've only seen my original review of Crybaby, you might be even more confused because that original review was much more positive than my current thoughts. Now, as I usually do, I put a spoiler warning on screen, but I'll say one for people who might be listening to it. This video contains spoilers for both Devilman Crybaby and Cutie Honey Universe. Something I find really interesting about this whole thing. Cutie Honey Universe, for whatever reason, is hated by a lot of Go Nagai fans. They say it's too similar to the original, but it's literally a fucking adaptation, so I don't know what the hell they expect. Something about Cutie Honey Universe that makes it better than Devilman Crybaby, and we're just going to go over various points here throughout. Cutie Honey Universe fleshes out a lot of the characters in different ways that they weren't originally. For instance, Tarantula Panther, Dragon Panther, Sister Jill, three pretty prominent characters, especially in Universe. But you go back to the original manga, and they're all fairly generic. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the original manga, but the characters themselves were very one-note, right? They were very surface level. Like, they got the job done as villains, but there wasn't a whole lot of depth. Universe adds a bunch of depth to those characters, giving them each unique motivations and personalities. Sister Jill kind of plays both sides. You see her in a cop alter ego simultaneously hunting herself. Tarantula Panther you see a lot more sympathy given to, along with Dragon Panther. They're both humanized a lot more than they were in the original. Not to mention, we see Sister Jill humanized a lot more because we see how much she genuinely cares about her Panthers. She genuinely cares about them in this one. If you compare this to the 70s anime, it's much more accurate to the manga because it actually has the destruction of Saint Chapel and a lot of other scenes that originally were not adapted into the 70s anime. It does do a couple of little things at the end that I'm not the biggest fan of, and there will be spoilers in this video. I'll put a warning at the beginning as always. For instance, one of the things it does, most of the characters who are killed do get brought back to life. That is kind of stupid. That happens at the very end. Natsuko's never brought back, and that's a pretty big one. Here's the thing, in the 70s series, she was the only one to be shown to be killed. They didn't have the destruction of Saint Chapel in the original. That was a manga exclusive until this version. Another point that people levy against it is they say that somehow the changing of the theme song is a detriment against it. And look, don't get me wrong, the theme song is iconic. It's been in every version except this one. That doesn't matter. First off, that's not indicative of the quality of the show, and second off, it's an improvement. Like, look, I hate to say it, but the new intro is an improvement. Honey Flash is really not that great of an intro. Like, let me be clear, because it may seem that I'm being overcritical. I do really like the original intro, too. I'm just saying, I think this one's a little bit better. Like, don't get me wrong, I like it. It's iconic. It's classic. But this one's better. It just is. So, with Cutie Honey Universe, we get a good adaptation of the manga that is fairly manga accurate, fleshes out some more characters who weren't originally three-dimensional, and makes them much more interesting. In addition to that, the art style is faithful. It faithfully captures the art style of Go Nagai's work. Now let's contrast this with Crybaby. Crybaby has a lot of pacing issues. The pacing in Cutie Honey Universe is great. I think the pacing is basically perfect in Cutie Honey Universe. In Devilman Crybaby, shit just kinda goes all over the place with pacing. I praised Universe for making the characters more fleshed out, but Crybaby does the exact opposite. It removes literally any character development that Ryo had. It makes him super flat. It's fucking terrible. They remove any sort of development that his character had, and admittedly in the manga he's not the most fleshed out either, but at least he had development in the manga. In the anime it's just non-existent. Crybaby just completely scraps Ryo's personality, completely scraps his inner struggle, completely scraps his whole identity crisis. Again, it's short, it's not the most fleshed out arc, but it existed. Now it's just like, hey, twist, I'm Satan. What do you think of that? But in addition to that, Crybaby modernizes the shit out of it. Whereas Cutie Honey Universe doesn't do that. Like it has some things that are more modernized than the original version, obviously, because it's not set in the 70s, but it doesn't do it to the degree that Crybaby does, where everything has to be, like, technological and new age, and, like, Crybaby makes the Sabbath scene, this rave that all the kids are doing. Look how cool it is. We're all having fun, doing the little Sabbath rave party. Let's all become demons. It's just the hip new thing with the kids. Cutie Honey Universe faithfully retells the story of the manga with a few changes, some of which I'm not the biggest fan of, like that one at the ending that I mentioned. Also, I have very mixed feelings on the way Panther Zora is portrayed, but overall I don't think it's a negative, it's just kind of mixed with but it's not enough to be a negative point against it, it's just an interesting new way the character is portrayed. But the rest of which I love! I love the changes with the characters being more developed and fleshed out. It's actually more tragic in a lot of ways because I'm more attached to the characters. Whereas in the manga, some of the characters I didn't really give a shit about. Tarantula Panther, Dragon Panther, who gives a shit in the manga? I don't really care, they're just more Panther Claw members. Cutie Honey Universe also adds in Iron Kaiser, which is a cool detail because Iron Kaiser is a Go Nagai character that reoccurs in multiple different stories that Go Nagai has done. But I'll never understand people who hate on Cutie Honey Universe and also love Crybaby. When Crybaby gets rid of character development, changes key details for the worse. Like, what good was eliminating the demon mask? Why was the demon mask something that they thought they needed to remove? The demon mask was integral to Akira's revelation of the demon realm. It was also instrumental in Ryo's revelation that he's not who he thought he was. Why did Crybaby feel the need to just load it with gratuitous sex? Like, don't get me wrong, Go Nagai has sex scenes and nudity and stuff like that in tons of his series. Devilman wasn't one of them. Like, Devilman had some nudity. Yes, it had nudity, sure. But to the degree that fucking Crybaby has, And I'm not necessarily saying that's a problem per se, but the execution is awful. Everyone's just always fucking horny in the show, and like, Akira comes on his ceiling and it drips down onto him. It's disgusting. Why is that in there? Like, don't get me wrong, I don't mind there being sex scenes. I don't mind it. It's fine. Like I said, I watch my fare of monster hentai, right? Like, I watch that shit. But does it really need to be in a tragic telling of Devilman? Like, they completely lost the tone. And don't get me fucking started on the crying thing. The crying motif is fucking stupid. Because in Crybaby, they're like, how can we show that Akira is pure of heart? I know, let's just make him cry whenever someone else is sad. That's stupid. It makes him seem like a fucking pussy. And on top of that, they also made it so that Ryo doesn't cry until the ending in Crybaby. Ryo cries all the time in the manga. Just as much as Akira, if not more. But for some reason they're like, yeah, let's always have him be stone-faced and, like, not sympathetic at all. Because, you know, Ryo's supposed to be a sympathetic villain, right? Like, he is a villain, and there's a lot of people who are stupid and don't think that he is the villain. But he is absolutely the villain, but he's a sympathetic villain. Part of the tragedy of the ending is Ryo realizes too late that he has done to the humans what God did to him and the demons. He's like, shit, I did the same thing, but it's too late. I love that! That's fucking tragic! But you remove any of Ryo's character development and any sort of sympathy you can have for him, and that just scraps that. It takes away any impact that ending has. Obviously, as I've said many times, Crybaby knocks Miki's death out of the park. It does it great. Crybaby has an amazing version of Miki's death. But they have some weird changes with Jinmen that just make it way less of a cool fight. Jinmen is just more of a sad, pathetic fight than it is a badass, cool demon. Like, it just kind of ruins the moment. Like, compare OVA Jinmen to Crybaby Jinmen, and it's a night and day difference. The scenes aren't even remotely similar. So at the end of the day, although I don't necessarily think something being a better adaptation makes it better, this is one of the cases where I absolutely think it does. Cutie Honey Universe definitely feels like Cutie Honey. It's a retelling of Cutie Honey with some interesting new takes on a few things. It's got really good animation. It's got a new song, which again I think is actually an improvement. It fleshes out characters that previously were very one- or two-dimensional. And it keeps in some of the more tragic scenes that were absent from other adaptations. Again, for some reason, people will try to say, oh, go watch Re-Cutie Honey instead, but Re-Cutie Honey is nothing compared to Cutie Honey Universe. I like Re-Cutie Honey. Re-Cutie Honey's fun, but it doesn't retell the manga in the same way that this does. Like, people are like, oh, Re-Cutie Honey was different, therefore equals better. That's not true. Like, don't get me wrong, different can be good. Different does not inherently equal bad. But for some reason, people think that doing a new adaptation of the original series should somehow be completely different. It's not. It has some modern differences. It has a few tweaks to the story, again, a lot of which I think are for the better, but it is at its core an adaptation. What the fuck were people expecting? Did they expect it to just be something completely different? Did they expect, like, Re-Cutie Honey again? Because if you want to watch Re-Cutie Honey, go fucking watch Re-Cutie Honey. Meanwhile, Crybaby strays so far from the original that it becomes something completely different, something hollow, with bad pacing and no character development. It completely gets rid of major story points to make it faster and more expedited, which it doesn't need to. You could easily contain it in 10 episodes and have the same stuff. JoJo Part 1, the anime, is only 9 episodes and adapts it way better than this does. Not to mention, Crybaby has just brought an insurgence of new fans who think that Devilman is something it's not. Crybaby gets rid of the anti-war themes of Devilman in favor of racism bad. Like, it's really generic bullshit modern social commentary that, yeah, sure, there might have been some undertones of it in the original, but at its core, Devilman was always anti-war. And because of just how fucking gay Crybaby is, like, Crybaby just feels like gay, and I don't mean that as in a derogatory sense, but I don't care if you take it that way because fuck you.
Fuck you!
But it does, it like has gay sex scenes, and people will think that Rio is gay, because the anime doesn't make it clear that he's a hermaphrodite, plus people redefine shit. People redefine sexuality to mean like all sorts of other shit. I mean, that's why the whole Rio isn't gay thing started, right? That's how I got in that whole argument in the first place. Because of that, people have begun to think that the point of Devilman is Rio's love for Akira, and that is not the whole point of it. That is a major aspect of it, but the whole point of Devilman is that war is not the answer, that vengeance is not the answer. Going back and fighting back out of spite doesn't win. That's the whole point. That's why Rio realizes too late, oh shit, I did just what God did to me. And the themes of that are lost in Crybaby when there's such an emphasis on the humans discriminating against the demons. The demons should be discriminated against. They're fucking awful. You've seen all the horrible shit they do? Every single demon is a piece of shit. The only ones that could be excused are Devilmen, and even then, in Crybaby, some of them kill people. Like, legitimately, that gay Devilman, he fucking eats a guy while he's having sex with him. He just eats him. Fucking Miko kills people. Like, Miko's completely different in this, but they just completely remove the redeeming qualities of the Devilmen and make them just like the demons. How are they suddenly better when they're doing the same shit? The only one whose hands are completely clean is Akira. So at that point, who can argue that the demons should be gone after? The demons are absolutely evil. So there's no reason not to assume they all are. It's not to mention people act like it's just the paranoia of humans that makes them go against the demons. But Rio literally had video evidence. Rio is manipulating the people against them because he's a little shit stirrer. He wants to start a war. It's natural. To act like the humans are bad, especially in the way it's depicted in Crybaby, doesn't make any sense. Now, okay, obviously they do have the humans do some bad things, obviously, like when they kill the Makimura family, it's pretty sadistic. Not as sadistic as it is in Ammon, but it is still pretty sadistic. But still, I think my point stands. Maybe I was being a little hyperbolic. So I don't want to give the implication that the humans did nothing wrong, but I'm just saying the reaction to the paranoia, all of that, that's reasonable, given the fact that it's fucking demons killing people and blending in. If you're going on like the way it was depicted in Ammon, I think that actually accomplishes it in a much better way. Because although I think Crybaby has the best version of Miki's death, I think the version of Miki's death in Ammon actually does a better job at depicting the depravity of humans. It does a better job at showing just how sick and twisted humans are, because it's played up to be shocking instead of tragic. Whereas in Crybaby, you're too focused on the feels that you don't really think about that. You just think, oh, racism bad. And that becomes the whole message. There are so many people who think that, oh, Crybaby is all about Rio's love for Akira. It's about love over all else. No, it fucking isn't. It's about Satan wanting to get back at God because God went after the demons. And then realizing, too late, that revenge was not the answer. And people who watch Crybaby don't think that's the message. They think the message is, oh, Satan's gay, lol. Also, racism bad. And that just completely detracts from how good of a story Devilman is. It completely loses any sense of the tragedy. And that is why Cutie Honey Universe is better than Crybaby. Cutie Honey Universe does a great job at executing what Cutie Honey is supposed to be. In fact, it improves on it in many ways. Cutie Honey Universe, I think, is the best adaptation of Cutie Honey, the original. My favorite Cutie Honey is New Cutie Honey, but that's a sequel. I think Cutie Honey Universe surpasses not only the 70s series, but also the manga. Cutie Honey Universe's changes to the plot are superior, in my opinion, to the source material. Whereas Crybaby just gets rid of any of the fucking message or soul that Devilman has in favor of a bunch of new age fucking bullshit to just appeal to a modern audience. And it just sickens me that Crybaby is so fucking loved and somehow Universe is hated, when Cutie Honey Universe is by far the superior version of Cutie Honey. Again, not including sequels. So that's really all I have to say in this episode of Overanalyzing. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Have a good one. Toodles!